U.S. State Department announces the Lender King to visit the Gulf and London to seek de-escalation efforts. The new head of the United Nations mission to support Hodeida's agreement starts office today. The giants and government forces penetrate further in Ma'rib amid Houthi collapse. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Roshan Fouad. U.S. Special Envoy for Yemen, Tim Lenderking, will travel to Gulf capitals in London, starting January 19 to activate peace efforts in coordination with the UN, senior regional government officials, and other international partners. According to a press statement by the U.S. State Department, the Special Envoy and his team will press the parties for military de-escalation and to participate fully in an inclusive UN-led peace process. Special Envoy Lenderking will also focus on the urgent needs to mitigate the dire humanitarian and economic crisis facing Yemenis. Major General Michael Berry assumed duty today as a new head of the United Nations mission to support the Hodeida Agreement. Major General Berry brings a wealth of experience in military operations and United Nations peace operations, over 40 years of overseas military deployments, including in Afghanistan, Balak, Croatia, Iraq, Somalia, and Uganda. A recent human rights report documented about 118 cases of violations committed by the Houthi militia against civilians in Makbana district in Taiz during the month of December. The report documented the killing of 35 civilians, including 2 women and 8 children, at the hands of the Houthi coup militia. The report documented the injury of 42 civilians, including 4 women and 13 children. The field team monitored 37 cases of damage to public and private properties in Makbana, where a school was damaged by a Houthi ballistic missile. It indicated that 2 massacres committed by the Houthi militia, which killed 9 civilians, including a child. Oxfam's director in Yemen said the increase in fighting is having a deadly impact. He added that civilians are the sole victim and are paying the price. Oxfam's regional director said that the people of Yemen have been caught in the crossfire of this violent conflict for nearly 7 years now. He called on the international community to urgently negotiate an immediate cessation in hostilities and a lasting end to the conflict. He added that all parties to the conflict must respect international humanitarian law and ensure the safety and protection of civilians. In Hodeida, many displaced families continue to suffer due to Houthi escalation and continuous crimes against civilians. They lack food, water, and basic life necessities. The following report has more details.
A human tragedy made thousands of families south of Hodeida struggle to survive. Statistics from civil organizations in Hais confirmed that nearly 2,000 displaced families who fled the hell of war to Hais district during the past 2 months of the past year and until writing the report fell into a forgotten list. The failure of government agencies and the international and humanitarian organizations carry out during their boring routine dealings with the displaced under the justification of evaluating the suffering.
They did not offer us tents, they didn't give us clothes, they gave us nothing. I have orphans and we flee from Houthis for help and a better life, but we did not receive any kind of help.
Fears are growing of the disasters that may happen to the displaced day after day. These poor people were displaced from their homes as they made the land a bed for shelter, And this woman sums up the suffering of those affected by the war, as they live in the worst conditions in homes and country yards that lack for the simplest necessities of life.
I live on the ground and over the dirt. We were displaced to escape the Houthi militia, which forced us to leave our homes. Someone found me while I was on the street. He and the neighbors held me. And now I'm sleeping in the yard, me and my kids.
The almost non-stop suffering and the widespread diseases accompanying the nature of the place, they go along with the displaced families and their children throughout the journey of displacement, without getting any care or attention in the places they're displaced in. Observers believe that the suffering cannot be alleviated unless the responsible authorities and humanitarian organizations provide the simplest urgent resources of relief and shelter, as they are among the most basic needs to pay the damages for the thousands of displaced who have become victims of the war ignited by the Houthi militia on Yemen and the Yemenis.
International Organization for Migration and the King Salman Relief Center signed a $20 million agreement to provide more than 150,000 people in Yemen with shelter. This includes providing clean water, hygiene, and sanitation. The project will target people affected by crises in Ma'rib, Taiz, and Hodeidah governorates, where tens of thousands of people were displaced last year. The humanitarian and economic crisis in Yemen continues to be aggravated by COVID-19, increasing fuel prices, and ongoing hostilities and displacement. To Shabwa, people of Ain district issued a distress call to lift the siege imposed by the Houthi militia for the second week in a row. According to the locals, the Houthi siege affected food supplies that ran out inside the district, as well as the diesel fuel. The medicine necessary and basic medical supplies are also running out. They appeal to the international community, the United Nations, and human rights organizations to pressure the Houthi militia to open roads for food supplies, medicines, and oil products. The terrorist Houthi militia targeted with a ballistic missile a fuel station in Ain district in Shabwa. Local sources reported that the missile attack burnt a number of cars at the station, killed one worker, and others were wounded. The battles intensified between the Yemeni army and the Houthi militia in the vicinity of Rish camp near Harib district, south of Ma'rib, while the militia targeted a fuel station in Harib, killing one of the workers and burning a number of citizens' cars.
A large-scale military operation is taking place in Ma'rib Governorate, along different fronts with heavy artillery and air cover. The operation surrounded the Houthi militants and restricted their movements. It resulted in the recapture of large areas from the Iranian-backed Houthi militia. The battles between the government forces on one side and the Houthi militia on the other intensified in the vicinity of Rish camp near the Harib district south of Ma'rib. Military sources said government forces in the north of Harib district engaged in violent confrontations with the Houthi militia in Aradha and Afaliha mountain range overlooking Rish camp when the Houthi militia tried to regain the positions they lost on that front.
The militia has used the last of their cards to press on Ma'rib, which is resisting. They have taken the last of their breath in this desert. We have cleared out this desert from Houthis. Airstrikes have destroyed Houthi vehicles and equipment. The heroes of the army and popular resistance are engaging in the fiercest battles ever. We are standing to the last soldier in the face of the rebels.
اليوم تم اقتحام مواقع الحوثي في مشارف ريش.
Houthi positions close to Reach have been penetrated. These positions you see are under control. This is a position for a Houthi sniper who was killed, and the position now is under control. We will keep advancing and tracing them until we reach Sana'a.
The rebels attacked the government forces and resistance stationed in Al-Faliha Hill, southeast of Rish camp, which is the last site separating the government forces from the heights of Al-Ma'la overlooking the center of Harib district. According to sources, the militia lost more than 20 of their militants and dozens wounded. 3 armored vehicles were damaged, and artillery destroyed a number of crews in Aqaba before making a possible maneuver on government positions. Meanwhile, the coalition jets carried out a series of raids during which they destroyed military reinforcements for the militia in Rish camp and the route linking the districts of Juba and Harib. A military official confirmed that government forces and giant brigades had taken control of the mountain peaks in this area after cutting all Houthi militia supply lines. The Ministry of Defense said Houthis are under fire after all supply lines were cut off.
The coalition said it carried out 17 air raids in the past 24 hours against Houthi militia in Ma'rib. The airstrikes killed 80 Houthi militants and destroyed 9 military vehicles in different locations in the governorate. The government forces announced that they had broken an attack by the Iranian Houthi militia on army positions in Hajjah, northwest of Yemen. The media center of the 5th Military Region stated that the Houthi attack took place in the area north of Abs district and resulted in human losses among the militia. The United Arab Emirates called on the United Nations Security Council to hold a meeting on the terrorist attack carried out by the terrorist Houthi militia 2 days ago. The parliament representative of the United Arab Emirates to the United Nations said Houthi escalation is another step in the efforts to spread terrorism and chaos in the region. Coming next. The students abroad protest in different countries over delayed grant payment.
راتب الواحد 120 ألف والكيس الدقيق ب18 ألف والكيس السكر اليوم ب20 ألف. كم يعني بيعطي هذا الراتب كامل كيس سكر وكيس دقيق؟
المواطن اليمني يعيش في أزمة إنسانية وغذائية مؤلمة من غلاء الأسعار وفحشة الأسعار وغلاء الصرف والعملة الأجنبية في البلد.
حالتي الحين حالة لما أخرج المندوب إحنا شقيرة ما نقدرش ناكل الأكل داخل ما إحنا بحاجة صعبة.
Welcome back. The International Organization for Migration tracked the displacement of 1,890 civilians between 9 and 15 January this year. In its latest report, the organization said that conflict was the main reason for displacement, accounting for 97%, followed by economic reasons and accounting for 3%. The organization indicated that the total displacement since the beginning of 2022 is around 7,422 individuals. Massan Project for the Mining announced it discovered a minefield planted by Houthis in Khoukha district of Hodeidah. Massan Media Center confirmed that its team removed 26 anti-armor minefields in the village of El-Hanjala, which is one of the highly populated areas. In the same line, Information Minister Muammar al-Eryani called on the United Nations and international relief organizations to open a transparent investigation into the Houthi planting of mines in homes, schools, mosques, markets, and roads. El-Eryani accused the Houthis of transporting mines in boxes bearing relief organizations and United Nations logos. Yemeni students abroad protest against denouncing the delay in disbursing their financial dues. They called on the expatriate students to organize vigils in all Yemeni cultural attachés to demand for their financial dues. The scholarship students held the government responsible for the consequences of ignoring their legitimate demands.
Yemeni students abroad started a new protest campaign to demand payment. The students affirmed that they will escalate their demands and protests to pressure the Yemeni government regarding the payment of their financial dues, pointing out that arrangements are being made to hold the first conference for Yemeni students on scholarships during the next few days. Yemeni students in a number of scholarship countries confirmed they are in the process of organizing protest vigils in the coming days to demand the speedy payment of their financial dues, represented in the second, third, and fourth quarter of 2021, and the first quarter in addition to the tuition fees for the current 2022. The scholarship students held authorities responsible for the upcoming escalation of ignoring their demands. The students abroad also called on everyone to participate and positively interact in their first conference, which will be organized under the slogan "Together for a Comprehensive Solution to the Student Issue and Contribute to the Development of the Nation." They explained that the conference will discuss many sides, which is the student issue in light of the national issue, the rights and duties guaranteed in the scholarship law, and the developments of the current scholarship mechanism. It also discusses the consequences of coronavirus pandemic on scholarships, noting that at the conclusion of the conference the recommendations and proposed solutions will be reviewed. Also, the role of the female students in the student movement and the institutional role in absorbing the outputs of scholarships and others.
In Lahj, most families live in endless suffering and tragedies as a result of sand dunes amid the absence of the governmental and NGOs' role towards this issue. The following report has more details.
Here in Al-Wara village in Tebben district of Lahj Governorate, the family of Ubaid Muhammad Jafar is living a human tragedy with encroachment of sand dunes that swept their modest home, threatening what was left of the house to fall down.
My family and I suffer from sand dunes covering my house. We are 12 people living in one home. I am the only member who is employed. My children are without jobs. Several organizations came and assessed the situation, but so far no response. We are now afraid for our children from rain as electricity cables are stuck in the sand dunes.
A human tragedy under which the majority of families live here, accompanied by continuous suffering and tireless efforts to remove sand in large quantities from their homes, especially with the intensification of winds and fluctuations in the weather.
They should help these families. This is a tragedy. There are many affected families in this village. In the windy seasons, families cannot cook because of the heavy winds. I call on authorities to find a solution.
A life characterized by misery and suffering amid the lack of financial means to remove these sand dunes. This turned the lives of these families into hell amid the absence of the government and international organizations' role to address the issues and help them.
This village has been suffering for a long time, which has led to the displacement of many low-income families. We called on local authorities and organizations, but so far there is no interaction. The wind causes disaster.
Families suffer from the encroachment of sand dunes over their homes, not only in this village, as there are many families whose homes have been swept away and moved to other places. The suffering remains inherent with the continued government neglect and excessive logging of trees that were protecting homes from sand encroachment.
To health, Yemen recorded the highest number of COVID-19 in the last months. The National Committee Against Coronavirus said that 58 new cases of the pandemic were recorded. Committee officials said that 3 deaths were recorded with no recovered cases. With the current updates, the total confirmed cases are 10,407, including 1,994 deaths and 7,051 cases of recovery. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. The U.S. State Department announced the Lender King to visit the Gulf in London to seek de-escalation efforts. The new head of the United Nations mission to support Hudayda's agreement starts office today. The giants and government forces penetrate further in Ma'rib amid Houthi collapse. This is the end of the news. For more, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Yemen Today English. This is Roshan Fouad. Thank you for watching.